It was a quiet evening when I first met him, Zane. At least, that's what I called him when I told my friends about him. In the beginning, everything felt like a dream. We clicked instantly, a connection so strong that it felt as though the universe had conspired to bring us together. It was one of those rare relationships where everything just fit. We had the same interests, the same sense of humor, the same vision for the future. I couldn't remember a time when I felt so understood, so seen. He was perfect, for at least, that's what I thought. I remember our first date vividly. We met at a cozy cafe tucked away on a side street in the heart of the city. The moment I saw him, my heart skipped a beat. He had that charm, that magnetic energy, the kind of charisma that makes you believe anything is possible. His smile was disarming, and his eyes, there was something in them that made me feel like I was the only person in the world. He listened intently as I talked, and I found myself sharing things I'd never told anyone. There was a vulnerability in him that mirrored my own, a rare honesty that I couldn't help but be drawn to. We talked for hours, exchanging stories and laughter, and when the evening ended, I didn't want to say goodbye. But we did, with the promise to see each other again soon. Days turned into weeks, and our connection only deepened. We spent weekends together, exploring new spots around the city, cooking meals in his apartment, staying up late talking about everything and nothing at all. He was attentive, always thoughtful, always there when I needed him. It was easy to believe that this was it, that he was the one I'd been waiting for. But, like all things that seemed too good to be true, there were moments that felt off. Small things, at first. He would ask a lot of questions about my past, more than I was comfortable answering. "Who were you dating before me?" He'd ask, his voice low and curious. "What did they do wrong?" I didn't think much of it at first. I chalked it up to him being genuinely interested in getting to know me, in understanding the parts of my life that made me who I was. But over time, the questions grew more frequent, more invasive. I brushed it off. He was just curious, right? He cared about me. But then there were the late-night texts. Sometimes, I would be fast asleep, only to wake up to a message from him. "What are you doing?" Or "Where are you?" "I miss you." It wasn't unusual for him to be a little clingy. He'd always say it was because he couldn't stand being away from me for too long. But those messages, sent at odd hours, started to feel more like an obsession. And then there was the phone call. I'll never forget it. It was a Friday night, and I had plans with some friends. We had just gotten drinks at a bar downtown, and the laughter and chatter filled the air. My phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with Zane's name. I frowned, checking the time. It was 9:30 p.m., and we hadn't made plans to meet that night. I silenced the phone and tried to focus on the conversation. The buzzing came again. Then again. By the fourth time, I felt guilty, but I couldn't understand why he was calling so much. I stepped outside to answer, hoping it was nothing serious. "Hey, babe. Where are you?" he asked, his voice unusually sharp. "I'm out with friends," I said, trying to sound casual. "We're just grabbing a drink." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I don't like that you're out with them." "You should be with me." His words hit me like a sudden storm. "Zane, it's just a night out. I'll be home soon." "You don't get it, do you?" he replied, his tone now dangerously low. "I don't like you being with anyone else. I want you all to myself." The air felt thick, the warmth of the evening suddenly gone. My heart raced, unsure of how to react. Was he joking? Was this some twisted form of affection? It didn't feel like it. "Zane, I'm just with friends. I'll talk to you later." Before I could say anything else, the line went dead. I stood there for a moment, the phone still pressed against my ear, staring at it in disbelief. It was like someone had just flipped a switch. The perfect, charming Zane I knew was gone, replaced by something darker, more possessive. I didn't know what to make of it. My mind raced, my heart still pounding in my chest. Was this just a momentary lapse in judgment, or was this a side of him I hadn't seen before? When I got home that night, Zane was waiting for me in front of my apartment building. I hadn't expected to see him. We hadn't made plans to meet, and yet, though he was standing under the streetlight, his hands shoved into his pockets. He didn't say anything at first, just watched me as I approached. I thought we agreed on no surprises, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, but it was shaking. He smiled, but it was empty, almost predatory. I just wanted to see you. I don't like when you're out with them. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. Instead, I unlocked the door to my apartment and stepped inside, hoping he would follow me. But he didn't. He stood there, staring at me, and I could feel the weight of his gaze pressing into me. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said softly, his voice almost too calm. I nodded, but a shiver ran down my spine. It was as if something had changed. Something had shifted between us. As I closed the door behind me, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were no longer what they seemed. The perfect relationship, the one I had thought I was living, was beginning to unravel. I had no idea what I had gotten myself into. But one thing was clear, I was in way over my head. The weeks that followed that night felt like a blur, a whirlwind of confusion and doubt. The Zane I knew, the charming, thoughtful man who had swept me off my feet, seemed to be slipping away, piece by piece. At first, I tried to convince myself that it was just a phase. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe I had misinterpreted his words, his actions. After all, relationships were complicated, right? It wasn't unusual for people to have their insecurities, to want more attention at times. I told myself I was being paranoid, imagining things that weren't there. But the truth was, I had started to notice something darker creeping into our relationship, something I couldn't ignore anymore. And yet, I did. It started small. Little things that would normally pass unnoticed, things I might have laughed off or brushed under the rug if I had been more willing to see the signs. But they added up. And eventually, I couldn't deny it any longer. Zane was possessive, more so than I had ever imagined. At first, I thought it was sweet, flattering even. He would surprise me at work with flowers or messages that read, "I can't wait to see you tonight," and while I appreciated the thought, it started to feel suffocating. I had never been the type to need constant attention, to be checked on every second of the day. But Zane, he didn't see it that way. When we were together, it was perfect. He made me laugh, and I felt at ease in his company. But when we were apart, he was like a shadow that never left. He texted me constantly, asking where I was, who I was with, what I was doing. "Who are you with?" He asked one night, after I mentioned I was going to dinner with a few friends. "Are they men?" "You better be careful, babe." I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. "Don't be silly. It's just dinner. I'll be fine." But the anxiety in his voice lingered, and I couldn't ignore it. The constant need for reassurance, the constant checking, was wearing on me. He'd say things like, "You know, I don't like when you hang out with other guys." It was as if he was marking his territory, reminding me that I belonged to him, and only him. It wasn't just the texting. There were the late-night calls, too. Calls that I didn't always answer, but he'd insist on leaving long, rambling messages if I didn't pick up. "Where are you? Why didn't you answer? You don't realize how much you hurt me when you do that, babe. I don't deserve to be treated like this. I'm just trying to care for you." I began to feel guilty, like I owed him something for simply living my life. And every time I tried to push back, to assert my independence, there was an excuse, an explanation. "I'm just worried about you. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." And when that didn't work, there was always the promise of something better. "I'll change. I know I can do better for you. Just give me a chance." It was manipulative. It was toxic. But I couldn't see it at the time. Love, or what I thought was love clouded my judgment. I didn't want to lose him, so I ignored the red flags. Every apology, every promise of change, felt like a lifeline. And for a while, it worked. I allowed myself to believe that everything could go back to the way it was before, that this was just a rough patch we'd get through together. But there were other signs, other things I should have seen for what they were. Zane was controlling, more than I cared to admit. When we went out, he always had to know where I was going, and when I'd be back. He would ask to see my phone, claiming it was because he trusted me, but deep down, I knew he didn't. There were always questions about my friends, about my past relationships. It felt like he was trying to erase any part of my life that didn't involve him, like he wanted to own me, to isolate me from the people who cared about me. One afternoon, we went for a walk in the park. It was a beautiful day, the kind of day that made everything feel right in the world. But as we walked hand in hand, something shifted. He kept glancing at my phone, which I had left on the bench while we walked. "You don't need that, do you?" he asked, his voice just a little too sweet. "I'll just check my messages really quick," I replied, bending down to pick up my phone. Before I could unlock it, he snatched it from my hand, his eyes narrowing. "I don't like when you're distracted," he said, his voice now cold. "You should be paying attention to me, not that thing." I laughed awkwardly, trying to shrug off the tension. "Zane, it's just a message from a friend." His grip on the phone tightened. "I don't care who it's from. You're mine. I don't share." The words sent a chill down my spine, but I didn't say anything. I didn't know how. I just stood there, staring at him, waiting for him to let go of my phone. After what felt like an eternity, he did, but the damage had already been done. My heart was pounding, and I could feel the weight of his words hanging in the air, suffocating me. Later that night, when I got home, I checked my phone. There were several messages from Zane. "Where were you? You didn't answer my calls. Are you ignoring me?" It was like a flood of emotion spilling out of him, and I was caught in the tide. I replied with a simple, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." But the apologies didn't stop there. He kept texting, calling, until it felt like my phone was the only thing keeping me tethered to the outside world. If I didn't respond, he would get angry. If I did, he'd only want more. And each time, I found myself giving in. I didn't know how to stop. But it wasn't just the texts and calls. There were the constant surveillance tactics showing up at my work, at my favourite coffee shop, unannounced. It wasn't even a chance meeting. He was watching me. It felt like he was everywhere, and nowhere at the same time. He'd say I was just nearby, as if he couldn't help it, as if he wasn't stalking me. Then there was the time I tried to leave town for a weekend getaway with my friends. I had been looking forward to it for weeks, needing a break from everything, a chance to clear my mind. But the moment I mentioned it, Zane's mood shifted. He became quiet, distant, and when I tried to leave, he begged me to stay. "Please, don't go. I'll be lonely without you. I don't know what I'll do if you leave me." His voice cracked, and I could hear the desperation in it. I didn't want to hurt him, but at the same time, I couldn't live my life in a constant state of guilt. So I went. But the moment I arrived at my destination, my phone exploded with messages. "Where are you? What are you doing? Why aren't you answering?" He couldn't understand why I wanted to have a life outside of him, and that fact alone should have been my wake-up call. But I ignored it. I ignored the signs, the feelings in my gut telling me that something was wrong. Zane had become a constant presence in my life, a shadow that followed me everywhere I went. I couldn't breathe without him. I couldn't make a decision without thinking about how it would affect him. The worst part was that I felt trapped. I didn't know how to escape. I didn't know how to break free from his control without losing him. Every time I tried, he would manipulate me into thinking that I was the problem. "You're the one who pushed me to do this," he would say. "You don't know how much you hurt me." And in my heart, I believed him. I thought I was the one who had messed up. I thought I was the one who had caused this. But the truth was, I was drowning in his suffocating love, and I didn't know how to reach the surface. The days after my weekend getaway with my friends were filled with an unsettling quiet. Zane was back to his charming self, sweet, apologetic, and full of promises. He said he understood why I needed space, and that he would change. He promised he wouldn't be so clingy anymore. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. It wasn't just the way he acted when I wasn't around, it was the way he looked at me now, as if he was studying me, trying to figure me out. It was unsettling, but I wanted to believe that he had truly changed, that the love we shared could be fixed. I tried to ignore the lingering doubts, to convince myself that everything would be okay. But deep down, I knew that something had shifted. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew I was no longer in control. The relationship had morphed into something darker, and I was stuck in the middle of it. One evening after work, I was sitting at home, scrolling through my phone. I had just finished a long day and was looking for a distraction. That's when I saw the message that would change everything. It came from a number I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was spam or some sort of marketing message. But then I read the words. My heart dropped into my stomach. You need to know the truth about Zane. I stared at the message, my eyes scanning it over and over, trying to make sense of it. Who was this person? What did they mean by the truth? My mind raced as I clicked on the sender's name, only to see it was someone I didn't know. There was no profile picture, no bio, just a blank account. And yet, this stranger seemed to know something that I didn't. The message was followed by another one, this time with a link. Click this link. It will explain everything. I hesitated for a moment. It could be a scam, a trap. But the urge to know the truth was overwhelming. What if this was the answer to all the questions I had been asking myself for weeks? What if Zane had been hiding something from me? The thought sent a shiver down my spine, but I couldn't stop myself from clicking on the link. The page that opened was a series of pictures. Some were blurry, some clearer. At first, I thought they were just random shots, until I saw Zane's face. And then I saw another face, a woman's face. They were together in the photos, and as I scrolled through them, my blood ran cold. Zane and this woman were everywhere. At dinner, at the beach, holding hands, laughing. It was clear they had a history I had never known about. And worse yet, the dates on the photos were recent, far too recent for my comfort. The shock hit me like a ton of bricks. My mind refused to process what I was seeing. How could he have been with her while he was with me? How could he have lied to me so completely, so effortlessly? I sat there, frozen, staring at the screen, my fingers trembling. Then, I noticed something even more chilling. One of the photos had a caption, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, I didn't mean to hurt you." The woman in the photo was crying. And Zane was holding her, looking just as desperate as he had the night he begged me not to go on my trip. But this wasn't just a photo of two people who had been friends. This was a photo of two people who had been in a relationship, one that was much more recent than the one he had with me. I scrolled down further. The pictures grew more intimate, more personal. They showed Zane and this woman together in moments that were too private to share. A hug on a couch, an embrace in the kitchen. It was all there, laid bare before me. I could feel the room closing in around me. My breath came in shallow gasps as the realization hit me. Zane had been lying. He had been seeing someone else behind my back, all while telling me how much he loved me. All while making me feel like I was the one and only. The betrayal was too much to bear. It felt like the floor had dropped out from under me, and I was falling into an abyss of confusion and heartbreak. I immediately went to call him, but my hands were shaking too much to dial the number. I didn't know what I wanted to say. I didn't even know if I was ready to confront him, but I couldn't sit in the dark any longer. This was it. The truth was out there now, staring me in the face. I sent him a message instead, A simple question, "What's going on, Zane?" It didn't take long for him to reply. His response came almost instantly. "What do you mean?" "Everything's fine, babe. I love you. Why are you acting like this?" I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the keys. He was trying to play it off, pretending nothing was wrong. But I knew better now. He couldn't lie his way out of this one. "I know about her." I typed, my heart pounding. "You've been with her while you've been with me. Why didn't you tell me the truth?" There was a pause. A long, agonizing pause. When he finally replied, the message was short, but his words hit me harder than anything I had ever read. "You don't understand. I didn't want to hurt you. It was a mistake." A mistake? Was he really going to call it a mistake after everything he had said to me? After everything we had shared? My blood boiled with anger, and I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. But I refused to let them fall. This wasn't the time for weakness. This was the time for answers. "A mistake? You think this is a mistake? You've been lying to me, Zane. You've been using me." Another long pause. "Please, let's talk about this in person. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I care about you." But I wasn't ready to hear any more of his excuses. I wasn't ready to let him spin his web of lies any longer. I didn't need to talk to him in person. I needed the truth, and the truth was already staring me in the face. This wasn't love. This was manipulation. This was control. This was something I could never go back to. I turned off my phone, silencing everything around me. The silence was deafening, but at least it was mine. I sat there in the dark for what felt like hours, trying to piece together everything that had happened. How had I missed the signs? How had I allowed him to control me for so long? It wasn't just his lies that had hurt me, it was my own blindness, my own refusal to see what was right in front of me. The next morning, I packed a bag and left. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there, in that place filled with memories of him. I needed distance. I needed time to think. And most of all, I needed to find myself again, to rebuild the pieces of my heart that he had shattered. As I walked away from the life I thought I had, I knew one thing for certain. I was done with the lies. I was done with the manipulation. And I was done with Zane. But as I stepped into the unknown, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The truth had come out, but there was still so much more to uncover. And no matter how hard I tried to escape, the past had a way of finding me. I hadn't planned to confront Zane. I didn't want to face him, to hear his lies or excuses. But somehow I found myself standing in front of his apartment, my heart pounding in my chest. The emotions swirling inside me were a chaotic mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion. I thought I was ready for this moment, but standing here now, I realized that nothing could prepare me for the conversation that was about to unfold. I knocked on the door, my hand trembling slightly as I did so. It took only a moment for him to answer. When he opened the door, his face was a mixture of shock and relief. I could see it in his eyes. He had probably expected me to disappear, to fade away like all the other women he had used. But I wasn't like them. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. "Hey," he said softly, a forced smile on his lips. "What's going on? I thought we were okay." "Don't give me that," I snapped, my voice shaking with anger. "We're not okay, Zane. You've been lying to me. You've been with someone else, behind my back." His expression faltered for a moment, then he stepped aside, motioning for me to come in. I hesitated, but walked inside, the tension in the air thickening with each passing second. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, closing the door behind me. "You're overreacting." I stared at him, the betrayal burning in my chest. "You don't get it, do you? I know about her. I saw the pictures. I know everything. You've been seeing her while you were with me, and you lied about it. All this time, you lied to me." Zane's face twisted in frustration. "I never meant for you to find out like this. It's not what you think. You don't get to make excuses for this anymore, Zane. I yelled, my voice cracking. You've been playing me this whole time. You made me feel like I was the one, but all along, you were lying. And now, you want to tell me it's not what I think. No, Zane. It's exactly what I think. You betrayed me. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading. It just happened. It wasn't planned. Don't give me that. I shouted, feeling the tears welling up in my eyes. You've been with her. You've been with her this whole time. I was nothing but a distraction, wasn't I? A convenient relationship until you got bored. Zane ran his hands through his hair, visibly agitated. That's not it at all. I care about you. I love you. Don't lie to me. I spat, taking a step closer to him. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done this. You wouldn't have lied. You wouldn't have kept me in the dark. He looked away, unable to meet my gaze. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. But it's not too late. We can fix this. My anger flared, and I turned away from him, pacing the small living room. I could feel the walls closing in on me. Everything I had believed, everything I had thought was real, had been shattered. How could I have been so blind? Fix this? I repeated, my voice low, almost a whisper. How do you fix something like this, Zane? How do you fix betrayal? You don't. You just leave. You walk away. You end things. Zane reached out, grabbing my arm as I turned to leave. Please, don't do this. I'm begging you. I'll do whatever it takes. Just don't walk away. His touch, once so familiar, now felt foreign and suffocating. I pulled my arm away, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. You don't get it. You don't deserve me. You don't deserve my forgiveness. I can't keep living this lie. I'm done. There was a moment of silence, and for a brief second, I thought he might let me go. But then, Zane's voice broke the stillness. You're making a mistake, he said, his voice low and dangerous. You'll regret this. You'll come back to me. You always do. I froze. His words struck me like a physical blow, and I felt a cold chill run down my spine. There was something in his tone, something possessive, something controlling that sent a shiver through me. I had always known Zane was intense, but now I saw just how much he thought he could control me. He thought he could manipulate me into forgiving him, into staying with him, no matter what he did. But I wasn't going to let that happen. No, Zane, I said, my voice steady, despite the storm raging inside me. I won't come back to you. I'm done. This is over. His expression darkened. You think you can just walk away like this? You think it's that easy? I do, I replied, finally turning toward the door. And I'm not looking back. I walked out of the apartment, leaving Zane standing in the doorway, his face twisted with anger and disbelief. As I stepped into the cold night air, I felt a strange sense of clarity wash over me. It was over. I was done with him, done with the lies, done with the manipulation. For the first time in months, I felt free. But as I walked down the street, something gnawed at the back of my mind. Zane's words echoed in my head. You'll regret this. You'll come back to me. You always do. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. That somehow, Zane wouldn't just let me go. I didn't know what he would do, but I knew it wouldn't be pretty. The following days were a blur of emotions. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened, about the things Zane had said. I kept telling myself that I had made the right decision, that I was better off without him. But deep down, I couldn't shake the fear that he would show up again, that he would do something to force me back into his life. And then, one night, I got the message. It came through at 2 a.m, the familiar ping of my phone waking me from a restless sleep. My heart skipped a beat as I unlocked the screen and saw the name. Zane, I'll make you regret this. You'll see. The word sent a chill through me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But I wasn't going to let him control me anymore. I had to be strong. I had to stay strong. The unbelievable aftermath of my confrontation with Zane had just begun. And I knew that no matter what came next, I would face it head on. I wouldn't be a victim anymore. I had to keep moving forward. For my sanity, for my peace, and for my future. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but wonder how far was Zane willing to go to make me regret my decision? And how much further was I willing to push back?